everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Happy Tuesday to you all. I hope that you're having a fantastic day per usual. And if you are not having a good day, well, I have the perfect thing for you to do. Whether you're at the top of your day and you're already having a rough one, you're in the middle, or you're towards the end, if you are having a tough time and troubles continue to mount on you and you're just feeling overwhelmed, or you have problems and issues arising, take the 5-minute reset. And if you don't know what that is, or you're new to the podcast, and if you are new, welcome in. But if you're new, then the 5-minute reset is where you take at least 5 minutes to be alone. And if you have more time, please take more time, but take 5 minutes to reset, come back to baseline, just shake everything off, kind of free yourself from anything that's just been hanging over your shoulders and weighing you down and causing you stress and anxiety and, just feeling upset and anger and overwhelmed. Also make a quick list of at least 4 things that you're grateful for. Those can be big things, small things, medium things. It can be grateful for being able to buy new things at TJ Maxx that's finally open. It could be a wonderful dinner that you cooked the other night. It could be being able to see your friends, being able to walk your dog or finally get back to the gym, whatever it is. You can be grateful for it. And I suggest a list of at least 4 things. Also, take the time to maybe problem solve whatever problems are arising, whatever is causing you stress and anxiety, whatever is, causing you to feel so like your day is being taken captive by whatever it is that's bringing you down. And then also just remember that when you are done with your 5-minute reset, make sure that you're able to walk away feeling at least neutral, if not positive, about the rest of your day, because you do not want to go out and pass along your negative attitude to anyone else. You don't want anyone else to feel what you're feeling just because you're feeling it. So make sure that you walk away feeling at least neutral, if not positive, because despite what's happening in your life, and I am not here to diminish your feelings, but despite what's happening in your life, there are still amazing things out there that are happening for you that you can be grateful for and that you can be excited about. So please take the 5-minute reset if you are having a hard time, and you are welcome to do that as many times as you need during the day. But again, I hope that your Tuesday is going well. Just a reminder that this week, on the podcast, just a reminder that this week on the podcast, we are talking about how to have the best week ever. And today, Tuesday, we are going to talk about nurturing your relationships. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. Relationships cannot thrive on their own. They need love and care, like many other things in our lives. Taking the time to work on the relationships in your life, even ones that are doing just fine and don't have any issues or problems going on with them, is integral to how long those will last, how beneficial these will be, and what kind of impact these will make on your everyday life. So you don't want to just leave relationships out there to flounder on their own, to figure their own selves out, because I can tell you from personal experience that if you do that, those relationships are bound to kind of break apart or not be as strong as they currently are, and you may even grow apart from that person, or it could cause like actual damage, because if one person feels like they're no longer relevant in the other person's life, if they are feeling misunderstood, there's not communication going back and forth, it can cause a whole thing. And I am aware that there are some relationships that we have in life where we don't necessarily have to put in as much work. I definitely have a relationship like that in my life with a friend that I've known for so long that even if we go months and months or even years without talking to each other, we can kind of just like pick right back up where we were. And that actually is this very special relationship, and sometimes I will admit I have taken it for granted, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to get out of the habit of taking any of my relationships for granted recently, because I understand that, as morbid as it may sound to you, but it's totally just like a reality, we are not promised tomorrow, so it's important to make the effort to be with those that we love and care for right now. So again, you need to be out there like doing your best to nurture the relationships that you have in your life. And relationships do not get better on your own. You have to put in the effort, time, and work to maintain them, or find yourself in some hurt and or loneliness, because if you decide to not do your part in the relationship, they may decide to just like take a step back or realize that you're not putting in the effort, so maybe they're not going to put in the effort anymore, or it might not seem worth it if they're always putting in the effort and you're not doing any of that. I am very familiar with that, with the person that's not necessarily putting in enough effort, because I get so stuck in my own issues sometimes that I forget that I need to still do my part in relationships. And I understand that it's not always going to be equal. There's definitely going to be times where you might be giving more than they're giving at that time, and then vice versa, but you have to remember that you have to still be cognizant of what's going on and still try to do your part as much as possible. And if you aren't able to, just be totally upfront and communicate that really well to the other person. And I have learned lately that to foster amazing relationships with your partner, your friends, your coworker, and everyone else, you need to focus on a few things that I want to speak on today. So let's start with actually making time for your relationships. You have to make time to put in the time. So make sure you are calling your friends to check in, hang out, or make plans for the future. Or maybe if you're trying to develop relationships at work, you want to take the time to actually get to know them, to get to know what their strengths and weaknesses are so that you're able to help them and you know how they can help you, and then learn how that you guys can work as a team together, how you guys need to communicate best to get things done. If you're talking about friends, you just want to get to know them and what they like and what you like to do and what you guys could do together, or what you guys could teach each other. And of course, in romantic relationships, you definitely want to get to know your partner as well as possible to figure out if that is going to be, the one that you're going to be with for life, or if that might just end up turning into a friend and not necessarily the deep, forever relationship that you may or may not be looking for. I don't know, but you still have to put in the time. You have to make the time and put in the effort and actually plan it out sometimes. It seems like you don't necessarily have to do a lot of work, but if you just take a little bit of forethought to figure it out, it'll be enough. Even if you only put in 30 minutes per day, broken up into even smaller segments throughout the day, it still counts as putting in the time. And you may not even realize how big a difference that makes to those people you are making the time for. This also lets those in your life know that they are a priority. By actually putting in the time and the effort, you can allow people to know that they are a priority in your life. They are something that you would rather be with or hang out with, or they're more important than going to the gym, maybe doing any other hobby like reading or running, or anything else. You are putting them up higher and than other activities that you could easily switch around, because honestly we all make our own different priorities. So by making the time to be with them, you are actually showing them how important they are to you. So even just finding a couple minutes a day to text someone, call someone, send them a message, send them a funny picture, mention them, and just let them know how much you care about them and how much you value their friendship is super important. And it actually means more to them than you might even think. And even if it doesn't, it's still gonna make a difference in the long run. So going along with this, it's important to communicate a priority. It's important to keep communication as a priority as well. All good relationships start with communication, and it's important to know when you need to talk something out and when you need to listen. This also means that when you have problems, issues, or disagreements, you need to make the effort to talk it out and not run away from the tension. Don't spread blame or avoid the issue, but face the pain and possible challenges of talking about hard things through, and most likely learning something about the other person, because I feel like a lot of times we don't realize that when we go through conflict, disagreements, arguments and fights with other people, we are learning something about the other person. We're learning about what they're passionate about. We're learning what makes them angry. We're learning what makes them sad. We're learning about how they do in sort of conflict resolution, or just arguments, or just when they get wounded deeply, or even just on the surface, what actually bothers them. So I encourage you that communication is probably one of the most important things in relationships, because if you don't have proper communication with people that you work with your friends, especially with your romantic partner, then things can go kind of sideways really quickly. Wouldn't you agree? Because if you guys aren't on the same page, if one person thought you meant this and the other person thought they meant that, and then, you come together and you realize that you were totally off, and whatever plans you had didn't work out, whatever decisions you wanted to make are not working out because the communication just wasn't there. It's so integral to relationships. I would honestly say it's like the number one thing. And again, I want to go back to, it's important to know when you need to speak and when you need to listen. And sometimes you just need to listen. Sometimes you just need to sit there in someone else's pain and realize that they need to talk to you. They need to share what's on their heart. They need to share what's in their mind. And then there's other times where it's great for you to speak and talk and share with them, and, talk and like kind of go back and forth and have that conversation, have that dialogue with them. But it's important for you within these relationships, because I know that they're all going to be different. The way that you treat people at work is definitely going to be different than your romantic partner, and that's going to be different from your friend. That's going to be different from the people that you volunteer with next to at church. It's all going to be different. But if you actually spend the time to get to know them and develop those relationships, you'll understand like how to navigate those times and how to communicate with those people, because also everyone has different communication skills. We cannot expect everyone to have the same skill set when it comes to that, because we're all different, and it's super unfair. So I definitely want to encourage you to work on communication, because it's definitely one of the most important things, especially when it comes to arguments and disagreements. You definitely don't want to like jump out there and, as I said, spread blame or like avoid the issue. I definitely want to encourage you to never avoid the issue, no matter what it is, because the longer that, like, it's different to take a quick break to kind of like, take a breather, really think things through. But if you are just continually avoiding things and confrontations and any conflicts that you may be a part of, they'll continue to mount up, and then all of a sudden you'll realize you'll turn around, there's this great big mountain that's starting to tower over you that you have to deal with, and it's even more painful once it's been longer, because you don't even remember how it started maybe, or you don't understand exactly what happened in the moment, how people's feelings were hurt, how you may have offended someone, or how they may have offended you, or how you actually felt in the moment, and you're taking more time to really like dwell on it, and that's never the answer. So I encourage you, take the time to communicate, whether it's positive communication, regular communication, communication within conflicts and arguments. It's all worth the time spent to actually communicate with others. I guarantee it. And the willingness to work through difficulties and disagreements is worth the discomfort of differing opinions and ideas, because it means you are making your relationship stronger in the end. And remember, forgiveness is always the best choice for everyone. And I wanted to make that point because forgiveness is something that I feel like a lot of people hold back as if it's some sort of special gift that you can give to someone. And yeah, I can see how you would think about that, but also I feel like forgiveness should be something that you freely give to people, even people that have hurt you deeply. And you know how they always say, like, you can forgive but never forget, but as long as you are not harboring on what they did to you, with the whole like not forgetting thing, because if you are, then you haven't truly really forgiven them. You've just said out the words out loud, but you aren't actually following through with the emotional actions it would take to actually forgive someone and let the offense go. And I understand that there might be offenses that you truly feel like you can't give forgiveness on, but I truly, truly believe that any offense that anyone does is something that can be forgiven. It might take a lot more work and a ton more time to get to that point, but I do believe that there is an opportunity for forgiveness with everything that everyone has done. It's not to say that you're going to be their best friend afterwards. It's not to say that you're going to necessarily be able to trust them as much as you did before, if you did at all, but forgiveness is always the best way to go. You never want to have like hate in your heart, or harbor any sort of like negative feelings, or holding grudges against people. I challenge myself with this all the time, because I have a bad habit of holding grudges against people, and I need to stop, because it's not healthy for me and it's not healthy for them if you're finding a way to take it out on them as well. But it honestly hurts you more so in the long run. But yeah, I want you to remember that it's definitely worth the time to resolve any sort of conflicts that you get yourself entangled with. And I just feel like it's a really grown up and mature thing to have the willingness to get through difficulties and disagreements with the people that you care about. And in addition to this, when you do take the time to resolve problems and discover information about the other person, don't jump to conclusions. It's much better and more mature to go to someone, ask questions non-accusingly, and figure it out together, because communication actually brings you closer. And a lot of times we'll hear gossip, hearsay, rumors about something, and immediately we will assume the worst, or we'll think that we were betrayed, or whatever it is. But we shouldn't just assume that whatever that person said about this other person that we're close to is true. We shouldn't jump to conclusions in anything. So and that's even like if you get into an argument, you shouldn't jump to the conclusion of that they are going to say this, that, or other, which I also feel like leads into making assumptions, which you should never do about anything ever. I understand that you can make calculated guesses based on past history, but there's a line there when you can cross over into making assumptions where you absolutely feel like without a shadow of a doubt what is going to happen is correct, and there's no way that anyone can change your mind, and there's not even any opportunity for you to be open and flexible about those thoughts. I feel like that would be the line between assuming and then making an educated guess, like a hypothesis based on history. So, but anyway, yeah, just don't jump to conclusions. I feel like it's so easy to jump to conclusions because we want to immediately believe any sort of bad things that are told to us, because usually when people have bad news, we feel like it's the truth, or it's easy to just take in and digest because it makes us scared, it makes us worried, it makes us sad, it makes us insecure. So just remember that the next time there is any sort of issues between anyone that you are involved within any sort of relationship, don't jump to conclusions. Have the guts and the courage the maturity to talk to them, find out what's actually true, and then move on from dealing with the situation from there. And it's also important to remember to follow through with your commitments and promises that you make to your friends, family, and really anyone else. Don't be that person that is wishy-washy or unreliable. Another way to think about this is to underpromise and overdeliver, but really just be the best person you can be in these relationships. And I really like that whole phrase of underpromise and overdeliver, because you don't want to go out there and talk about all the things that you are going to do for your friend, or you're going to do for your spouse, or whatever it is, or promise that you're going to do at work, and then people come back and they have all these expectations because you have put it out there that you're going to do all these things and none of it's done. And so when you underpromise and then you do overdeliver, you do go out of your way to do this, that, and the other, you do decide to put in a little bit extra work, extra time, then people are so grateful, so thankful, so surprised, or maybe they're not necessarily surprised in a negative way, but more of oh my gosh, that's so amazing, they're so appreciative, as opposed to you promising to do 20 million things and then only really getting half of them done because people are let down because their expectations were already set. You want to be able to manage people's expectations in that way, and it'll also save you a world of hurt, and it will allow people to trust you better, because if you're out there saying you're going to do something and then you don't do it, people are only going to give you so many times before they start to stop trusting you, and I have friends like that too, and I've actually had blatant conversations, honest conversation with them, listen, all the time you say you're going to do something and then you back out at the last minute. It drives me crazy. Why are you so wishy-washy? I have real conversations like that with people, and I encourage you and I challenge you to do the same if you have those kind of people in your life, because yes, it might be uncomfortable, it might hurt some people's feelings, but if you go to them just honest and open and you're hey, can we have a real conversation about something that kind of hurts me and I really genuinely love and cherish our relationship, but I really need to talk to you about this because I don't think it's a really good thing that you're doing, I feel like they'll hear you. And if they don't hear you, maybe it'll take some time for them to kind of, think everything through, calm down, and then come to you. But if they truly can't accept that, then maybe it's time for that relationship to take a break or come to an end. I do not believe that every relationship that we make, every friendship, every coworker relationship, every like those kind of things are meant to be forever until you find your forever like partner. That's different, but you know what I mean. Like, so I would just be upfront and honest. I always am always going to encourage honesty, authenticity, transparency. Just be upfront, tell them in a nice way without being rude. Remember not to be rude, and just get it out there and have that conversation. It's going to be so much better in the end. And remember that everyone wants to be appreciated, obviously. You don't have to be the bestest ever or super perfect about it, but just show your appreciation as much as you are able. And this just goes back to really prioritizing your friends and family and people at work when you need to, and just showing them that you care. Maybe like taking some opportunities to go out of your way to show that you care, or show that they're important, or whatever thing that's important to them is also important to you because of the relationship that you guys have created together. So everyone likes to be appreciated. I don't think there's any debate there. I would take the time to figure out how you can do that for the people in your life, and they will most likely reciprocate it. But even if they don't, don't become upset or angry about it. Just realize that they might not realize it. They might not be there in that maturity level of a relationship. It just might not have occurred to them. But I assure you that they will maybe realize that even more the more that you do it, and then start to reciprocate and realize that they're learning more about how relationships should work from you, or they might be taking you for granted, and then you have to reevaluate that relationship. But lastly, I want to encourage you to do not take your relationships for granted, and don't treat your relationships like something you only take from and not give to. You need to make sure you are giving back more than you are taking. So you don't want to be that person that's continually going to your friends, asking for advice, crying on their shoulder, like just continually like draining them emotionally and mentally all the time. But when they come to you and you're like, no, I don't have time for that. No, I can't deal with that. Or you try to change it back and make it all about you. Don't be that person. Don't be like that. Realize that it needs to go both ways. And like I said at the beginning, yes, sometimes it might be 70-30, 60-40. It might not always be equal, but it needs to continue to shift back and forth for it to be a proper relationship where you guys are both pulling from each other. So I just want to encourage you to realize that you need to make sure that you are not taking more than you give, and don't take it for granted. Don't assume it's always going to be there. Don't assume that if you can just leave it without watering it. It's kind of like a plant. You have to continually like watch over it, take care of it, kind of like prune things when it needs to do, help it grow, help it flourish. You need to put in that time, okay? So I think that's everything I have to say about that, about nurturing relationships. So thank you guys for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Again, happy Tuesday. I encourage you to check the description box for notes for the show. Also, where you can find me on Instagram, which is at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. Please check out my website, which is sabrinajoy.com. And also go ahead and send me an email for any questions, comments, concerns, or prayer requests that you may have. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope that you really enjoyed it. Please, I encourage you, share it with your friends. I'd really, really appreciate that support. And I hope you come back next time for the rest of the episodes, for the rest of the week, talking about how to have the best week ever. But until next time, have a good one, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.